Welcome to the Powerslide Podcast, a podcast about WRC, rallying, and more. Hello everyone and welcome to the Powerslide Podcast for a special episode on the 2017 season. I am Dimitris and today I have the privilege of being joined by Antti, who was also there for an old Rally Finland preview that we did from It Gets Faster Now. So hi Antti, how are you?
Hello, good to be here. Thank you, and I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing great, surprisingly. All good.
And what could be better than talking about rallying and my favorite WRC season?
Exactly. Definitely one of the modern, perhaps the best season in the past 10 years. It's either
Yeah.
2017 or 2018, which both were
And for
great.
for me, it's special personally because it's the season that brought me back following rallying. I was a rallying fan when I was a kid in the 90s, but I kind of got some else that was interesting to me when I turned 18 and moved out of house, and life became different, and I stopped following rallying in 2002 or something, and I was off the sport almost completely for 15 years. But then I gradually started looking at old videos on YouTube, and then I realized that hey, this starts looking interesting with what's happening in 2017, and rest is history.
It's a bit the same for me as well because I was a rally fan since birth basically because I would be sleeping at my parents' bedroom as a baby and then growing up, etc. Well, no, but I would be watching rallying with my dad every day or whatever. I would even try to mimic the car sounds when I was very very small and couldn't
Yeah.
speak and whatever. And I was watching rallying until 2013 when Loeb retired and Ogier was winning, which I didn't really like. Heck, I don't even really like it now, but that's a different story. And then in 2017, I saw new cars or whatever. I still didn't watch all the rallies in 2017 because it was not really easy to find the broadcast. I didn't even know it was televised live, like stages were televised live until 2019. So I would only watch select highlights or the one or two stages they'd broadcast live in TV on TV. So from 2017, I watched Monte live. I watched some of Sweden. I watched Germany. I watched some of Finland. And some other things, whatever, but I still wasn't 100% in. I
Yeah.
went fully in 2019, where the Greek broadcaster showed pretty much every stage.
Yeah, 2017 was the last year before all live happened, so it was the last year of the rally radio and having only the highlights and a
Yeah,
couple of live stages on WRC Plus. I
yeah,
remember that I started following from Argentina onwards, following every stage on the radio and keeping up with the stage times. So that it took a few rallies for me to totally get sucked into the whole thing.
yeah. Also, another thing that didn't really help for me for my love for WC was that Acropolis was off the calendar, but whatever.
Yeah,
Uh,
I can imagine. I
yeah,
can imagine how difficult that would be. But should we start going with the topic?
yeah, we should. So let's start with, the announcement of the regulations. Let's say.
Yeah, we cannot talk about 2017 without discussing the new rules of the WRC cars, which were announced in the summer of 2015.
Yeah.
And the cars became more powerful, more spectacular, more aerodynamics, and they also had the active center differential, which hadn't been since the 2-liter WRC cars in 2010. So there was a lot of expectations for a Group B monster coming back or whatever. And actually, there's an interview with Jarmo Mahonen, who was working at FIA, and he was coming to this meeting with the FIA people and the manufacturers, and they were talking about R5 as the main class, but Mahonen came and no, we need to have 600 horsepower, we need to have big wings like Group B, and that's how the idea started rolling. And it's not exactly 600 horsepower,
Yeah.
but 380,
Yeah.
and paddle shift was already in the previous cars, and that remained also. So they were quite technically advanced cars.
One thing, because I had a conversation with someone the other day about whether the WRC 2017 regulations were a mistake and that we should have gone to R5s. I personally disagree completely with that, because I think that the 2017 regulations was such a boost for the sport, both for spectators, both for people who watched on TV. The cars were more exciting, the rallies were more exciting, and I think that if we went to R5 from the 2011-2016 cars, which were already pretty dull, let's say, compared to whatever had come before it, it would have been a bit of a bummer. It wouldn't have helped the sport per se, and the cars that the teams had available from that time were not great at all. Because if R5 as a main class, it would have been the 208. Obviously, they have seen development, but the base they had compared to the Fiesta or the Fabia would have been a bit tough to climb to reach parity. But yeah, I think the 2017 regulations were just the thing needed for the sport at the time.
Yeah, definitely we would have lost a lot of spectacular driving, and especially when you remember how those cars looked in 2017, because the aerodynamics weren't yet developed as far as they eventually became, and they were jumping with the nose forward high and like sliding like crazy, and it was a wild year to spectate rallying. It was already the next year that they started developing these new rear CD rack aeros and things like that, those small wings on the front, and the cars became more stable and more racing-like, if you want. But
Yeah.
this is something special in 2017.
Yeah, they looked very well, what's the word? Like not
Aggressive.
Yeah, aggressive, exactly, aggressive, very aggressive, and it also showed with how they were, as you said, how they were sliding and how, like the counter steering and whatever. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. And you had like the new sound and some fire in the rear and things like that.
Yeah, Monty 2017 pictures from Red Bull Content Pool at the time were fantastic.
And of course, there was a new team to be joining, Toyota.
Yeah.
And that's also basically worth its own podcast, but we're going to just recap quickly that it was a project that was basically initiated with the help of Tommi Mäkinen, former WRC driver and world champion, and he was leading the project and developing the car in Finland. And it was a pretty quick project and a lot of rush, but they managed to get the car finished in time, although there was a lot of suspicions that if they will get it ready and will the car work. People were expecting them to be maybe as slow as the R5 cars, and they didn't even think about winning rallies in 2017. They were just going to gather experience for the first year and just try to learn working as a WRC team and things like that.
Yeah, it was the first year since 1999. In 2017 would be the first year since 1999 that the Toyota back team would actually feature in the WRC, which was obviously a big deal. And well, it wouldn't be Toyota Team Europe, it would be the new Toyota Gazoo Racing, based in Finland.
Basically, we were expecting to have 5 WRC teams in 2017. VW, Hyundai, Citroen, M-Sport, and Toyota. And 2016 was actually kind of like a gap year because Citroen was taking a year out to prepare for the 2017 season and the new car. They only did selected events with some sort of unofficial team, but they didn't take part in the manufacturers' championship.
Yeah,
and VW also was testing mostly the new car, 2017 car, in 2016.
Yeah, basically Volkswagen did no development for the Polo R WRC that they had from 2013 to 2016 for the 2016 season, and Citroen just ran selected rallies to not keep the drivers so rusty for the 2017 season with PH Pod. And curiously, Hyundai decided to not shelve the i20N that they were supposed to have in 2015. So they debuted it in 2016 instead of just throwing it out and starting early on the 2017 car. But those 5 teams, they wouldn't actually be 5.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah, it's the again a topic of its own podcast, but it was this Dieselgate where VW was kind of cheating with the emission numbers, and they got in trouble and they had to fire some employees and cut down on motorsport because it wasn't good PR for them. So that was the end of the Volkswagen WRC team quite suddenly, because we were expecting to have the VW team with Ogier, Latvala and Mikkelsen, and they were now out of job for 2017, and there was only a couple of months time for them to get a new job.
Yeah, exactly.
And Toyota was supposed to be running with Juho Hänninen, Esa-Pekka Lappi and Teemu Suninen, all Finnish team, and 2 of them new drivers that were only running in WRC2, and Juho Hänninen was basically having been out of the WRC for quite a long time, so it wasn't like the strongest lineup for them, but it was, like I said, they were supposed to be just learning and not expecting any success. But eventually, Jari-Matti Latvala joined Toyota and helped them develop the car to and make it a lot better in those few weeks that he had time to do it. So that was the first piece in the puzzle of who gets which seat.
Yeah, and then we had the big let's say marquee signing that happened in the off season was Sébastien Ogier joining M Sport, which was a big, a very very big thing at the time, because M Sport in 2016 they weren't like the M Sport that pace-wise, they weren't the M Sport of today, but they weren't far off. The Fiesta RSWRC had been dropping in pace ever since Ford pulled out at the end of 2012. They hadn't been able to attract many top-tier drivers. I mean, Hirvonen in 2014, he wasn't the Hirvonen of 2011. Then Osberg, it's not top drivers, and the car was also pretty slow. So things looked bleak even before Volkswagen withdrew, because the driver lineup would have probably been Camilleri, Evans, and Tarmac, maybe.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, or maybe just 2 drivers. We don't know, but basically, for Ogier joined with M Sport, he tested the Toyota. And there was a video from him testing it on some wet tarmac, and I remember people commenting that looks horrible, like just looking at the video and saying that the car is horrible. And maybe there also some comments from Ogier that he doesn't like the car, or maybe, but that was also one of the reasons that people didn't expect much from Toyota for 2017.
And the other manufacturer that was rumored to be interested in Ogier was Citroën. When the news that Volkswagen would be withdrawing from the WRC, the first rumor that came up was Ogier and Citroën. But in the end, Citroën said that it didn't need any of the drivers from Volkswagen to win a championship.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That was kind of funny thinking later. Citroën had Chris Meek as the number 1 driver, and they also had 2 younger drivers, Greg Breen and Stefan Lefebvre, who didn't have that much experience in WRC in the top class.
Yeah, all 3 drivers did the select rallies with the team in 2016. Lefebvre had a massive accident in Germany in Panzerplatte, where he got injured and I think had to withdraw from Rally Corsica. And there was also rumors in 2016, earlier in 2016 in the off-season, that Sebastian Loeb wanted to help Citroën develop the C3 WRC for the 2017 season and also do some select rallies, as did Meek, Breen, and Lefebvre. But the team said no, so Leb instead just went to Peugeot to do Dakar and whatever. So that
Yeah.
in hindsight, that seems like another big blunder by Citroën.
Yeah. And Hyundai continued with the same drivers: Thierry Neuville, Hayden Paddon, and Danny Sordo, and nothing special for them. And
I mean, they had to drop Kevin Abring.
well, yeah, I don't know if that was planned anyway, because there wasn't much results happening.
Yeah.
And of course, when Latvala came to Toyota, one of the pre-selected drivers had to go, and it was Teemu Suninen, and he was now left without a seat, and he eventually continued in WRC 2. I don't remember when M Sport announced the rest of the lineup, but likely it has been quite late to 2016, and they, in addition to Ogier, they had Oit Tänak and Elvin Evans, and if we remember that they weren't the drivers they are today, neither of them had won a WRC event, and actually Evans had been dropped down to WRC 2 for the 2016 season.
Yeah. Quite harshly, really. In hindsight, quite harshly, because Camille was not that great.
Yeah. And Elvin Evans got the DMAX sponsored car, but now it wasn't its own team for the manufacturers' championship, because the point system was now different. Every team could have 3 scoring cars, and there wouldn't be private teams. And in addition, privateers couldn't even enter these new WRC cars. They would always have to be entered by a factory team.
Yeah, and the last point that you make is also what pretty much killed the rumor of Volkswagen being able to rent the cars to privateers, because there was a rumor that we haven't mentioned Mikkelsen. Mikkelsen was without a seat heading to Monte Carlo, and there was a rumor that Nasser Al-Attiyah in Qatari sponsorship could get the Volkswagen Polo WRCs that would be unused and have a team with himself, Mikkelsen, and maybe I've even seen Ostberg as a three car team, but obviously that didn't materialize, and the cars just
the car wasn't obviously homologated by Volkswagen before the 1st of January, and they tried to do it privately, but that's against the rules, and they tried to get like this special permission from FIA and the other teams, but it was voted out that they couldn't do it, so that was the end of the project.
Yeah, the cars would just would be used in rallycross with Johan Kristoffersen's team.
Yeah, they have never been rallied.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So the 2017 season, the calendar was the same as before, except that the Rally China was obviously taken out from the calendar. It was replaced by Rally Poland, which hadn't been... Oh, was it? It was actually before.
Yeah, it was in 2016.
Yeah.
But China was originally on the calendar.
Yeah, it was supposed to be 14 events, but China being cancelled resulted in 2016 being 13 events, and the same calendar proceeded on to 2017.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, that was it. So then we go to Monte Carlo, and obviously a lot of expectations for the shakedown, because we see these cars for the first time and seeing the first images, and like you said, it was like quite awesome to see them in the dark with the fire from the exhaust. But one interesting point from the entry list is that Craig Breen is entered with the Citroën DS3, the old WRC car, because Citroën wasn't able to get all these cars and spare parts ready for the season, even though they had taken the whole year off to develop the car, and that's quite interesting.
And they were also seen as the favorites heading to the season.
They were seen as the favorite, and Chris Meek was seen as a favorite for the title, because obviously we didn't expect Sebastian Ogier to be competitive in M Sport, and Thierry Neuville wasn't really a championship contender before. People were actually expecting Hayden Paddon to be like the number one driver for Hyundai, and like I said before, Toyota wasn't expected to succeed in anything. So it was a really interesting starting point the season because there were so many open questions.
A very naive 14-year-old Dimitris actually predicted Chris Meek to win the championship in 2017.
Yeah.
Certainly one of the predictions of all time, unfortunately. But yeah. And also, going back to your point about Hayden Paddon being more highly regarded in 2016, that heading to 2017, that's actually true, especially in 2017 after Paddon's win in Argentina, and afterwards Neuville being dropped to the second team for manufacturer points, etc. People were saying that Paddon was Hyundai's leader effectively, and despite him crashing later in the season and Neuville picking up the pace, and it didn't go away in the 2017 off season. So, but the arguments about Paddon versus Neuville would end pretty quickly at the start of 2017.
Yeah, it was a quite. If we go back to Monte Carlo, it was a pretty dramatic start to the season and pretty dramatic for Hayden Paddon with the crash on the first stage of Monte Carlo, which involved a spectator being killed. Obviously, it's not Hayden Paddon to blame for that, but it was a end of the rally for him and probably had a big effect on his season and maybe his whole career. And he wasn't to blame for that, but we didn't get the results for the first stage of the year. But if I remember correctly, it would have been quite equal for Ogier and Neuville, who completed the stage before the crash.
I watched the stage live. I don't remember anything. I just remember it being cancelled with Paddon's crash. I actually have it on video on my phone for some reason, but whatever.
Yeah, but then we had the second stage on Thursday evening, and it was a Thierry Neuville stage win, and Ogier second, and Juho Hänninen third, and Chris Meek fourth. So basically we had all these four different cars on the top four positions. And especially Toyota's pace was quite surprising, and especially Juho Hänninen.
Exactly. And then also Stefan Lefebvre slid off in the ice and went off and retired already, but he would super rally the next day. And then on the next stage on SS3, Ogier, who, he's the Monte master, as even then, you expect a good result from Ogier in Monte. He would go have a moment, let's say, where he would go in the ditch and get stuck briefly, but he'd be held back on the road with spectators, and he would be. Well, he lost 40 seconds or so. I can't remember.
Yeah, I think and even after that, he wasn't winning a lot of stages. He was all the time maybe a bit slower than Neuville or anybody else that was winning the stages. But that was the Ogier tactics. If the car isn't fully up to his liking, he just tries to go as fast as possible and minimize the risk and try to get a good result.
Yeah.
And that's basically what he did all this season, because he didn't often feel completely at one with the Fiesta WRC. He was just trying to maximize what he can do. He couldn't really attack or dominate with the Polo.
And I think Ogier was fifth best at the end of the season in terms of stage wins, or fourth.
Yeah, and also not many rally wins.
Yeah, this rally alone, he only had 3 stage wins. Evans also had 3 stage wins in the DMAC car. But the person,
Chris Meek was running second after the third stage, but then he went off.
Yeah.
And Juho Hänninen was third after the fourth stage, and he also went off. So that started happening.
Yeah.
But maybe the biggest drama was Thierry Neuville, who was leading the rally for the first 3 days, he was leading by a minute after SS10, and then he went off on the last stage of Saturday. Just lightly went wide and broke the rear suspension, and that was game over.
Yeah. Broke the suspension on second pass of Bayon Brazier on the day running, and he made it to the end of the stage, but he had lost 30 minutes or so. So yeah.
And suddenly it was Ogier leading.
Ogier leading with Tarmac in second and Latvala in third.
Yeah.
So it was.
But that changed in the last day when Tarmac had some engine issues and Latvala was eventually second in the finish, and that was almost as good as a win for Toyota to be like second in this rally, and not even the best rally for Jari-Matti Latvala, a difficult rally with the tarmac and changing conditions.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I do have the numbers for Monte Carlo. Latvala was 0.79 seconds per kilometer slower on average than the ideal pace to Ogier 0.23, but still second place in Toyota's return is a result nobody really expected.
And there was actually an interesting power stage because there was snowfall and they didn't have snow tires, so the first cars that passed the stage were the drivers in Super Rally. They got the best conditions, and that's why Neuville, Lefebvre, and Juho Hänninen got the top 3 positions.
It's also quite funny because Hänninen had snow tires on the previous loop. It didn't snow.
Yeah.
And then on the next loop where there was snow on the power stage, he was he didn't have snow tires. I think I don't remember what he had, but also. On the start of the next day, on the start of Sunday, the Super Rallying Chris Meek had an accident on the road section with another road car, and he wasn't able to partake on Sunday.
We forgot to mention that there was also a rule change for the power stage with 5 drivers now scoring points.
Yeah.
So that's also something new.
But still, in the broadcast, they would show the top 3.
Yeah.
And it's an error I made. We're thinking, it's the top 3 still. And I still had that in my brain as, whatever. And an interesting thing is, favorite Citroen in the Citroen C3, actually the leading Citroen would be Craig Breen in the DS3, who would finish 5th.
Yeah.
Lefebvre would still be in the top 10, I think 9th. But he was painfully slow that rally.
Yeah.
And he would make mistakes as well. He had a spin in SS14. He also had no power steering at one point. But it showed that the Citroen was not as great as people thought, and also not as reliable as people thought, because there were still mechanical gremlins.
And Andreas Mikkelsen won the WRC2 class, and he was quite open in his social media and interviews that he wants to get back to the top class seats, so he was kind of like promoting himself, and that was a pretty like dominant win in WRC2 with the Skoda Fabia.
Yeah, quite dominant as well. And now the next round, as always, is Rally Sweden, and after Friday, we had a leader that we didn't really expect.
Yeah, definitely.
Because Neuville, we knew he was very good on tarmac, but leading in Sweden, A, fast rally, and B, on snow, you did not expect that. But before we get to Neuville leading, I got a bit ahead of myself, because we had some new people on the entry list, because Ostberg was able to enter a privateer Fiesta WRC.
Yeah, he actually bought his own car instead of renting from M Sport, and put up own private team together with Martin Prokop's Jipocar team. And he was basically running Sweden with like default settings. He didn't have time to do any testing or development, so it was kind of like just doing a test drive for the rally. Wasn't that fast.
Yeah, he also had a bit of an off. Well, not off, just hit the rear in the snowbank and lost his rear wing. So he did
Yeah,
the second loop of Friday with no rear wing. So that's not
yeah.
helpful, really.
And actually, there were some rumors that or photographs that Chris Meek had already crashed the Citroen in testing. So that wasn't a good sign.
Yeah, and he'd do that in the rally as well.
He did in the rally as well, yeah, on the TV stage, went to the snowbank.
Um,
Uh,
so Newell was leading. He also had a reasonable lead. What was it? Like a minute almost? No, it wasn't a minute. Sorry, it was. I don't remember, but anyway, he had a healthy lead.
43 seconds.
43 seconds on a fast rally, which
Yeah.
is massive. He would then go on and crash in the Karlstad Super Special stage.
Yeah. Such a silly thing to do.
Yeah. He was the fastest driver in the opening 2 rounds, and he'd leave empty-handed. Only the points he scored in the power stage in Monte. Which is, yeah. But he did show that he is definitely a force to be reckoned with that season. But still, it's two of the things people mostly associate with Newell even nowadays. He could have won these 2 rallies and didn't.
But that left us with the situation of Jari-Matti Latvala leading the rally at the end of Saturday with Ott Tänak just 3.8 seconds behind and Ogier 16 seconds behind.
Yeah, and Latvala would win the all of Sunday stages and actually win the rally. The first rally win for Toyota since 1999 Oriole China, I think. And
yeah, that was like completely unexpected again.
And the celebrated win.
Yeah. And after Sweden, Jari-Matti Latvala was leading WRC points. He also won the power stage in Sweden. Is this maybe even the first time Latvala was leading the standings?
Maybe. I'm not sure. I don't remember him leading in the Volkswagen days.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't remember. But it could be the first time. I mean, further back also we had Haninen, who was expected to do better than he did in Monte. He was actually quite slow on the first day, and then he would go off.
Yeah, he was like, I remember it was like the first stage when he started getting up to pace on the splits, but then he went out into a tree, and it was kind of like same story as in Monte Carlo, just a few stages and then crashing out.
Yeah, Breen would not. I think he'd finish. Where did Breen finish? Sorry.
I think it was again
5th, I think.
Yeah, he had a lot of 5th places in that season.
Yeah, finished 5th on his debut with the C3. He also had the damper issue on Friday, and for Hyundai's other drivers, Sordo was nowhere as expected on snow, and Padden had no power steering on Saturday, which dropped him down the order.
Yeah. And also an interesting thing that happened during Sweden was that there was the opening stage of Saturday called Knoon, and the average speed for the stage win by Ott Tänak was 137 kilometers per hour, and that was considered to be so fast, or the stage was so dangerous that the second pass of the stage was cancelled. I don't know if it's just the average speed alone or because the driver said that it's dangerous, because that year in Sweden there was not a lot of snow. There was ice on the road and it was cold, but the snowbanks were pretty small, so maybe there could have been some big stones or trees sidelining the road at those high speeds, and it could have been dangerous. But that was something quite interesting, something that hadn't really happened before, that to cancel a stage because it's too fast.
Yeah. And even nowadays we see stages that are almost 10 kilometers faster on
Yeah,
average speed, and that's no problem. But like it's a new era. You need to be a bit careful.
yeah,
I'd say, and it was also the longest stage of the rally. But what can you do really? Whatever.
yeah. So are we ready to continue to Mexico?
Yeah.
Uh,
Mexico was the first gravel rally,
yeah,
and it would show that Toyota's first two rallies were a bit of a fairy tale because there would be mechanical issues that rally for both
yeah.
Latvala and Hänninen.
But they weren't the only ones.
Oh no, they weren't.
Yeah. Basically, when they did the first gravel stage, El Chocolate, which was like a 50-kilometer stage, basically all the cars had some sort of issues except the Citroens.
Yeah, especially on, yeah, as you said, Tanak road mode, Latvala road mode, Evans again issues, Hänninen also road mode. Lefebvre had no power steering, which at least wasn't engine related.
Yeah. And Elvin Evans had to change the engine already before the rally and got a 5-minute penalty.
Oh, wasn't that also the year that they had that whole SS0 thing?
Yeah, because of Dieselgate, Volkswagen wasn't sponsoring Rally Mexico, and they had to find alternative funding for the event, and that's why they held Super Special in Mexico City. And at first it was supposed to be just one run of the stage, but they decided to double it, but they couldn't change the stage numbering, so they had SS0 and SS1. So that's something also that has never happened before.
And likely will never happen afterwards.
Yeah. And it was a disaster because there was a traffic jam when the rally cars were transported back to the city of Lyon where the service park was, and they had to cancel the first two Friday stages.
Yeah, which dropped the rally to under 300 kilometers.
Yeah.
I think probably Mexico first, but whatever.
Yeah. And I think Sordo and Paddon had some big technical problems on the Super Specials at the end of Friday, so they dropped some time there.
Yeah, all three Hyundais really, because Newell had an overheating engine after.
Yeah.
After I think he also had an issue in El Chocolate, but afterwards he also had that on the Super Special. She lost like 10 seconds on these ones.
Yeah.
And luckily there were no issues on Saturday and Sunday really mechanically. And it was Chris Meek who was actually leading the rally. For the first time a Citroen would be leading the rally that season.
Yeah. Basically, Chris was leading the rally from the first El Chocolate until the end. So that was like quite a success, and even the stage times are pretty good except for the Super Specials. And except for the power stage, because you remember what happened. This is like one of the most iconic moments in the WRC history.
Yeah. Chris Meek going off. Yeah.
Going off, and the co-driver Paul Nagel saying, "Jesus Christ, Chris," and then him trying to find the way back from the parking lot.
Yeah, and finishing with the tire off the rim with the ribbon, that red ribbon from the spectator area, but still managing to win the rally.
And he had like 37 seconds of lead before that stage, and he lost only 23 seconds, so it was enough.
Chris Meek in a nutshell, really.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But now we had 3 rallies and 3 different cars winning, so that was a good sign for the season. All the cars could win rallies.
Yeah.
And Toyotas were really slow the whole event. They didn't get the car working in the difficult conditions.
And
conditions of Mexico.
And also Hänninen was ill fell ill on
Saturday.
Yeah. He was extra slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, after that, the championship went back to Europe for Corsica. And it would make it 4 manufacturers
Yeah, I was getting ahead of myself because that was what I was supposed to say after Corsica. Four rallies, four different cars winning rallies, and that's like, I remember how special Thierry Neuville won Tour de Course with the Hyundai,
Yeah.
and he finally succeeded. It was like he had been fast in every rally, but he had been making two mistakes and having technical issues in Mexico, and now he was awarded with the win. There was also so much happening in this rally. For example, Juho Hänninen, once again, good splits on the first stage, and then he crashed out into a bridge. And he came back to Super Rally and crashed again on the final day.
Yeah, and he wouldn't be the only person to crash out. Lefebvre would also crash out, and Tarmac would also have an off and retire.
And Evans.
And Evans as well. And
Yeah.
and both Ogier and Evans would have hydraulics issues with their
Yeah.
Fiesta WRC, that rally.
This is actually interesting when we think about the WRC today. We don't get so much technical issues or retirements. But back in 2017, you had like cars that had failing engines, or especially that hydraulic system which was controlling the center diff and the paddle shift. Those were failing so often, but nowadays we can have WRC whole events where nobody retires or goes to Super Rally.
Yeah, but also this was only the fourth event that these cars were used in. I think in 2022 we also had a lot more mechanical issues, especially from M Sport that year. But
Exactly.
yeah,
But one of the biggest retirements of Tour de Course was Chris Meek, who was leading by 15 seconds after SS5, and then the engine died again on the TV stage. So it could have been a nice win for Chris Meek, the team that Citroën is at its best on tarmac at that point. Although they had won in Mexico, but maybe that was more due to the car being more
bulletproof, let's say.
Yeah, in those conditions.
And then we went on to a similar rally to Mexico, both rough gravel in the Americas, Rally Argentina.
Yeah. But before that, we had some interesting rumors. And first of all, Mikkelsen was back in Corsica with the Skoda WRC2, and he won that again in dominant style. And on the final stage interview, he said that I will be back in a WRC car soon. And a couple of days go by, and there's these rumors that, okay, Hänninen has crashed so much that he's been sacked from Toyota, and Mikkelsen is going to take his place. There was even somebody has photoshopped Mikkelsen's name onto the side window of a Toyota Yaris WRC and put that on Twitter, and it started circulating. But another week goes by, and we get news that Mikkelsen is testing a Hyundai on gravel in Portugal. And that was like a complete surprise, because Hyundai had three good drivers and they couldn't have a fourth one. So why is he testing a Hyundai? It didn't make any sense. But it was just a test, and he didn't do more than that at that point. And there was also rumors from Toyota that they had some employees that were leaving the team because it was not a good place to work, and there was like so much rush and everything was so incomplete, and maybe the leadership level wasn't as high as it should have been in that kind of a workplace.
I did not remember most of these. That's the bad thing about not being on social media at the time.
all these things that happen outside the rallies are something that makes this season so special. In addition to all the results, we also have a lot of interesting things. But it was such a dramatic season. But yeah, we went to Argentina, and one of the drivers who returned was Mats Ösberg, because he had skipped Mexico because he became a dad, just like I did. During Rally Mexico, my kid was born.
Aww.
But yeah, and Ösberg did into Tour de Course because their tarmac setup didn't arrive in time. But he was back in Argentina, and they were able to do testing in Argentina because the factory teams were not allowed to test outside Europe, but private teams could do so. So he was testing in Argentina, and that was like something quite special.
He was actually doing really good in Argentina, Ösberg, before going off and ripping a wheel of his Fiesta, that rally. I think he was on a podium position. before that off on
Yeah.
SS14.
But basically, the big story about Argentina is how well Elvin Evans was doing, leading most of the event until the last stage, when Thierry Neuville got ahead of him.
Yeah,
This scenario has then repeated a couple of times that Evans loses to Neuville on the.
and not just Neuville, is Evans losing on someone on the power stage.
Yeah.
Ogier's done it as well, but
Yeah.
Evans, especially on Friday, he won, I think, all but one of the proper stages, and he had a good lead. But then on Saturday he had a puncture, and then he had an issue with his diffuser.
Yeah.
It dropped off, and that meant Neuville, who was higher up on the road, Neuville would attack on Saturday and Sunday, and he would be able to just nick the win off of Evans. And he would be the first person to win back-to-back rallies that season.
Yeah.
What's also quite funny is, if you watch the Power Stage live, Julian Porter had one of my favorite Porterisms, as I like to call them ever, where he was describing how the DMAC tires were actually, the hard DMAC tire was actually softer than the Michelin. And as he was saying that, we had Evans slightly nudging one of the bridges in El Condor, and he just screams, "Oh no!" and then continues and says, "Anyway, the DMAC tires," which is I find very funny. But yeah.
And Chris Meek crashed on the first day and couldn't continue, but got the car into Super Rally and had an even bigger crash. So that was quite a trip to South America for Citroën. They actually went to both of these American events with just two cars. They didn't have a turn the old car anymore. So Lefebvre was in Mexico and Breen was in Argentina, but neither of them had good rallies.
Yeah, unfortunately, Breen also had a gearbox failure on Friday. Would not super rally on Saturday.
Yeah,
and would
but Breen hit something like he hit some bedrock or something, which broke the gearbox.
I did not remember that.
Yeah.
Someone else who also had quite a miserable American leg was Hänninen, who in Argentina did most of the rally with engine issues.
Yeah.
And
Latvala wasn't that fast either.
Yeah, he also had engine issues on Friday as well, and he'd also pick up a puncture on Saturday's opener. And other than that, the other two Hyundais, Sordo had a steering issue. He wasn't really that fast either. And Padden would roll on the first stage on Friday, and then on Sunday, first he had, I think, a differential issue or something, and then he lost the power steering on the power stage.
Yeah, it was again those hydraulic issues that plagued these cars. Okay, are we ready to continue to Portugal?
Yeah.
So we had a new driver, or actually two new drivers. We had Esa-Pekka Lappi debuting with Toyota as the third driver, as it was planned that he would join in later when the car had been a bit more finalized. I don't know what was the real reason, but that was the official reason, that he wouldn't have to learn while the team was learning. But wasn't anything special on the first rally. It was a quite slow start with a lot of problems and maybe a small mistake from him as well. But
yeah, in Amarante he almost had a small off.
Yeah, and Citroën brought Ford C3 for Al-Qassimi, and now they had also both Breen and Lefebvre on the new cars as well. But Lefebvre would crash out, and Meek would crash out after leading. So
Breen actually had a good rally on Friday, but he would drop off on Saturday and Sunday, struggling with the car, especially on Sunday, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, Meek was leading on SS5 but crashed on SS7. So that was during Friday.
And Lefebvre's crash on SS3, he rolled, but then continued, but he was still painfully slow afterwards.
Yeah. And the Friday was interesting because there was like 9 different stage winners during the first day, and one of the stage wins was shared between 3 drivers. And I remember thinking that this is like really great that we can have this in WRC after many years of VW dominating.
Yeah, and then Citroen dominating before. It was really a breath of
Yeah.
fresh air. And
Yeah.
the stage win that you mentioned that was shared between 3 drivers, it was actually the longest stage of the day. So it wasn't like
Yeah.
a very short
Yeah.
stage or whatever. It was
Yeah.
actually very, very, very competitive.
Yeah, and we had Ott Tänak leading the rally on Saturday, but he crashed out, made a small mistake, and broke the suspension. He could continue, but he lost the lead. It would have been his first WRC win. But he started showing these signs that he could be a top driver.
I think following Portugal, I remember I ran the numbers for my post, but I don't remember now. But I think after Portugal, Ott Tänak was the fastest driver in the 2017 season.
Yeah. And also, if you look at the podiums, you have always had like in Monte Carlo, you had Ogier and Tänak, Sweden, Ogier and Tänak, Mexico, Ogier, Neuville, Tour de Course, Neuville, Ogier, Argentina, only Tänak, and Portugal, you had Ogier, Neuville. So those top guys were like keeping the on the podium and like dominating the points. Actually, we could like see what's the point after Portugal. So after Portugal, it was Ogier leading with 128, Neuville second with 106, Latvala third with 88, Tänak fourth with 83, and the rest didn't have that much. But basically, Latvala was still in the fight for championship title. He didn't have a good Portugal. He had a food poisoning and he rolled the car on Friday and he only finished 9th.
As for some other drivers further behind, again the other Soto had a decent rally, but Paddon would again have a bad event because he'd have an electrical failure. Then he'd do, I think, a whole loop without power steering.
Yeah.
So it's, I think, the 4th rally where he had power steering issues that year.
Yeah, and Mikkelsen was like once again dominating WRC2, but he went off on the power stage.
It seems like it's a common thing to do for WRC2 leaders on the power stage because Suninen also did that in 22.
It's a tricky stage.
It is a tricky stage. It's not just the
jump. But it would be the last WRC2 event for Mikkelsen in a while.
Yeah, because Mikkelsen would replace the, for lack of a better word, very underperforming Stefan Lefebvre for Rally Italia Sardinia, the upcoming round. But he wouldn't really be that fast in Sardinia.
Yeah. He couldn't like learn the car, and he was like quite quickly he was like developing some new part for the car to get the setup right. They had to add a homologation choker. I don't remember what it was, maybe like a differential setting or something. And there was some talk about how Mikkelsen doesn't use the left foot braking to drive the car in the corner, so that's what made it difficult for him. But Sardinia was another interesting event. We had Esa-Pekka Lappi with the first stage win on Friday, even though he was missing one gear from the gearbox.
And he'd followed that with 2 more on the fall. He'd won 3 stages.
And he won the power stage, which was quite like flamboyant.
Yeah.
And there was actually like this funny quote from the first run of the power stage, and at the end he was interviewed, and Colin Clark was like asking, should we bet $5 for Esa-Pekka Lappi winning the power stage? And he says, no, we should bet $20. And he won the power stage.
Yeah.
And I remember these clips when they were like from these in-car clips that they were just laughing in the car with like big slides, and it was like classic Esa-Pekka Lappi, Janne Firm. They were like having a good time. Actually, if we even mention that Ogier won Portugal, because that was the last win for Ogier during this season. He only
Oh,
won 2 rallies, Monte and Portugal.
I completely forgot that.
Yeah, and he
Yeah,
won Portugal first on the road
yeah.
because everybody else had some sort of issues.
Some sort of issue, and Newell couldn't match him.
Yeah.
Um,
Back to Sardinia. Juho Hänninen was leading the rally on first day. He had a good starting position, but on the last stage he went off and damaged the radiator and lost some time. So it was actually Hayden Paddon leading the rally after the first day without winning any stages. So that was also something interesting to happen. But Paddon then went off on the second day. Famously, he hit something on the side of the road and the rear suspension broke and it started burning, and he was like
Dragging
driving
the
the burning wheel and jumping on the Koiluna Loelle rallycross section. That's kind of
yeah, and he would super rally on Sunday, but then would also go off on
with a quite heavy crash on
with a
the
big crash on
Calafumini narrow
yeah,
stage.
Uh, as for Mick, again he would roll
From the
uh,
lead.
from the lead on Friday. Evans would also go off on Friday on stage 4, and apart from that, yeah.
But the Tanak got the first WRC win finally.
Yeah, got his first win despite almost having. I think he had an overshoot
On the final day,
on the
that was
final day.
almost like Tanak doing what he used to do so often, like throwing away victories.
Yeah, because to that point, he had one win thrown away. Something always seemed to go wrong when he was fast.
Yeah.
In 2016, we had the Poland picking up a puncture.
Yeah.
He also picked up a puncture in Wales in 2016. He could have
Yeah.
won that rally if it wasn't for that puncture, because he was only 10
Yeah.
seconds off of Ogier. And then Argentina,
And
and then Portugal as well.
Yeah, and Ogier had a puncture on Saturday as well, slowing him down. He was only 5th in this rally,
Yeah, and
but it was always difficult, like first on the road in Sardinia.
despite having won Sardinia this many times, most of them were from first on the road, but not in this, not this time, because of how competitive the field was. But also Newell on the same stage ended with no break, so he lost a bit of time there.
Yeah.
And then we go to one of I'll let you do the talking. It's Finland.
Well, Rally Poland, and we got the news that Chris Meek won't be driving and is replaced by Mikkelsen, and then they had Breen and Lefebvre, and that was quite a dramatic thing to happen. The number one driver has to take one rally off.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It was a big shock, and it was a shock to pretty much everyone, because, as you said, Mick was the number one driver, and it almost felt like Citroën wanted to make a statement that we don't need you, and we also have another guy here. He could do the job just as good as you. But I think from that point on, Mick's and Citroën's relationship fractured to the point of no return, really.
Yeah, that was it.
Because
but we also had Teemu Suninen debuting with the WRC Fiesta.
Yeah.
As a privateer, and he was already winning stages on the first day, and I remember the interview at the end of the stage when they asked how does it feel to win a stage, and he said it feels good, but I want more. It was like classic Teemu Suninen. I think he won more stages and he was doing quite okay, but he had some small mistakes, and eventually he spun on the final day and lost. I think he would have been 5th or something, but he finished 6th.
He had some good times, but also some not so good times. On Friday, I think
Yeah.
when it rained on Sunday he lost time, and on Friday on the first loop, compared to the second loop's time, he was quite slower.
Yeah.
But it was a very, very nice three-way fight in Poland between Tarmac, Newell and Latvala.
Yeah.
It was Latvala, who was I think at one point all three were separated by almost 5 or 6 seconds, but then Latvala would retire with a mechanical issue.
Yeah, that was like a weird thing that some bolt came off and disconnected the clutch or something. Or maybe it was like the throttle got stuck and then he would have to use the clutch, and then he burned the clutch while doing that. So it was a weird one, and that was really something that dropped him out of the championship fight, even though the next rallies wouldn't be any better. But
yeah, that started the streak of mechanical retirements that Latvala would have.
Basically, he could have won that event because Newell and Tarmac both had some issues later on in the rally.
Newell had a puncture, then Tarmac was leading, then Newell went on an attack, and they were exchanging the lead stage by stage, and then something had to give. Tarmac went off, hit a tree, and then retired.
And I think already on Saturday, Tarmac lost the rear wing of the car and had to drive slower.
I don't remember really.
Yeah.
Ogier also had an off, which is rare.
Yeah,
he lost the front air after hitting a tree.
Yeah.
Other than that, Lappi also retired.
Yeah, quite early. He hit something like
lost
stone or something, and it wasn't a lost wheel, but the suspension collapsed, and there was something that happened so often to the Toyota Yaris that you hit something hard with the front suspension and you have to retire for the whole rally because you also damaged something in the engine, and they were always so careful not to damage the engine any further because there was always engines were like limited, so you couldn't fix them or change them so much.
I did not.
And actually, that was also what happened to Juha Hänninen, because, like I mentioned, he had an off in Sardinia and damaged the radiator, and he also happened to damage the engine while doing that. So he had to drive really slow in Rally Poland. This is something that he only told like many years after in some interview.
Yeah, he was more than 1 second per kilometer slower in Poland. Yeah. A rally which, in theory, suits him.
Basically, should have, yeah.
Other than that, not much. I mean, Breen had diff issues on Friday, lost a lot of time, but apart from that, not much happened. And Mikkelsen was not
a crash.
Mikkelsen had an off on Friday,
Yeah.
But he wasn't that fast anyway.
Yeah, until I think the power stage was like pretty okay. He was third on the power stage.
But other than that, things for Citroën looked quite bleak, and Mikkelsen would be subbed out of the lineup for Finland, and they would bring back Meek, and they would run Meek, Breen, and Al-Qasimi, I think.
Yeah, it started like this. Like all the year, Citroën had been rotating the drivers, and they never entered 2 rallies with the same driver/car lineup. And it was like kind of weird to have Al-Qasimi as the third driver because he was more like a gentleman driver and he couldn't challenge for any positions. So it almost like showed them giving up and just driving with two main cars and giving Al-Qasimi what he needs to keep the sponsorship of Abu Dhabi. But yeah, Finland started with like the news of the route being slowed down with chicanes due to the new cars being faster than expected, and also what happened in Sweden with the cancellation of the stage. And almost every stage had some chicanes, and in combination with the route that would have been really fast overall, even without the new cars.
Yeah, Unimpoja was also cut down in kilometers, and also had many chicanes.
Yeah, Unipohja was cut down because the TV crews wanted to show Kakaristo area, so the stage ended there. So basically it was the same stage as this year's power stage. but it wasn't cut down due to the speed, but the chicanes were added later on.
And
But yeah,
the big news, Finland was perhaps the what's the word one of the moments of the season for sure, because actually we forgot to mention. No, never mind. My bad. It was a great battle between Finns in that rally because we had Lappi, Latvala, Suninen, and Haninen all going fast in their home rally.
I think at one point on Friday it was like finish 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it was.
And also we had like Ogier crashing out and Tanak and Paddon damaging wheels. Actually, everything happened on the fourth stage of the rally.
Paddon went off and continued, then super rallied. And then super rallied again.
Yeah.
But the big moment, the defining moment of the rally was Latvala was leading.
Yeah, after the first day, Lappi was in the lead, but Latvala caught him on Saturday with better road position and then was leading in Ouninpohja, second pass of Ouninpohja, and then the engine just dead. It was the ECU which broke. And after that, Lappi was leading, and it was close that Suninen would have been second, but he crashed on the final day and he dropped to fourth. And actually, Hänninen was then second, but Evans caught him, so Evans took second place and Hänninen was third. But it was the first podium for Hänninen.
And only podium for Hänninen.
Yeah.
You could have been, as you said, and also Suninen, the entire rally, he was driving the wheels of that car. He wanted a good result as anything. He'd make small mistakes, and you could see he was really, really, really pushing. He was really sideways, like taking massive risks. He also had an overshoot in
Ouninpohja.
First pass of Ouninpohja, yeah. And then on Sunday, as you said, off, and then had damage. Lost the front aero and lost the potential podium.
And Chris Meek was like really slow.
Yeah, Meek was very slow, and then he'd blame the team, saying, "Oh, he was rusty because he missed Poland."
Yeah.
And keep in mind, that's the rally he won the previous year.
Yeah, exactly. He was expected to do well, and I think he was like fast on the first forest stage on Friday, but after that he was like so slow. And I remember him being like cynical in the interviews, and like maybe it was the team that told him to just finish the car and not crash.
Maybe it's and then
we don't need to like go through all the WRC2 winners, but I think it's interesting to mention that Jari Huttunen won WRC2 in Finland, and it was only his second ever rally in a four-wheel drive car. Although there wasn't much opposition because the Skoda factory team wasn't there and Suninen was in the WRC car, but he was driving against drivers like Greensmith and Veiby.
Yeah. Veiby was in a Fabio, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Had a big crash in Päijälä. Going end over end.
I don't remember it, honestly. I didn't pay much attention in WRC2 like at all that season. But I think before Germany,
there was two big things that happened between Finland and Germany.
I remember Loeb starting a test with Citroën on tarmac.
Yeah.
So
and that was big news that Loeb was testing the car, because especially like you said, he was offering help the year before, but it wasn't needed, and now he was back there.
Yeah, it honestly was an admission of defeat, really.
Yeah.
For Citroën.
And it's also funny that when you look at the pictures and videos from those tests, they are always using the DS3 there as well, like comparing those two cars. And to me, that sounds like the wrong way to do it.
Yeah, because especially the DS3 after 2013 was not as good. But yeah, I mean that's what you get when you get Chris Meek to develop the C3 WRC on his own.
Yeah.
Whatever.
But the second big thing that happened at this time was that Hyundai introduced this sort of junior talent program, searching for a new driver, and they even published a list of young drivers who had signed up for this program, and there's names like Chris Ingram, Tom Cape, Gus Greensmith, Emil Lindholm, Pierre-Louis Loubet, Fabio Andolfi, Emil Bergqvist, Ole Christian Weiby, and Jari Huttunen, and Kalle Rovanperä. And eventually Jari Huttunen was chosen as their new junior driver, and basically got like a deal with them that he would be supported to drive in WRC2 and eventually be trained for top class drives. But that didn't go well at all, because the teams that were he was driving with teams that didn't have any knowledge of how to run in WRC events, and the car was quite miserable. But even though the car wasn't as good as Skoda or Ford, it was the reliability was so bad, and he couldn't like show anything.
That's a common. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Eventually, he couldn't like ever get a WRC start with Hyundai in the main class. He only did 2 rallies in Finland, and for those rallies, he was told that if there's a scratch on the car, you are fired from the team. And he was driving against Katsuta when Katsuta was like just learning to drive. Yeah, 2019, before Katsuta was actually driving the WRC car, and Katsuta beat him. So that was like, what is happening? Is Huttunen this bad? But the reason is that he just was told to not make any damage to the car.
And now heading to Germany.
Back to Tarmac.
Back to Tarmac. It would be a fairly embarrassing outing for Mick again. He would crash on the super special stage.
We could have expected him to do well because the Citroen was so good on Tarmac in Corsica, but he ruined it on the first stage.
Yeah, and he wasn't even that fast on Friday afterwards. The Citroen who was actually fast was Mikkelsen.
Yeah.
Mikkelsen.
Yeah, Mikkelsen back with the Citroen. He was actually announcing that this is his last rally with Citroen. So that was kind of like one of those mysteries, like what is happening here?
There was also rumors before the event that Citroen would drop Mick and replace him full time with Mikkelsen, because the Catalunya entry list had been out, or it was closed, and Citroen had 3 entries but with no names.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then Mikkelsen goes on and says that, and you're like, huh, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, before we get to where Mikkelsen ended up in, it was a very interesting rally, because Oitanak would actually win in a very, very, very good performance, and he would beat out Tarmac master in Germany, multiple Germany winner Sebastian Ogier, who had the spin on SSA.
Yeah, and it was a really rainy Friday, and there was these new rain tires that nobody had used before, and Tanak chose them, and it was basically helped him win the rally, and he actually almost went off into the vineyards, but he got back up. And I have almost felt that this is like a metaphor for his career. If he had stayed in the vineyards, if he had like rolled the car or could have got stuck, that would have been like he would have never been a world champion. But he got up there and he went on to win the rally, and after that he didn't make like any driving mistakes for a long time. That was like him like getting out of that vineyard and becoming the world champion class driver.
I mean, possibly. it's not out of the possibility, because we've seen mistakes completely knock a driver's confidence. But it was also Tanak's best ever performance on tarmac as well, because he wasn't really known as a tarmac driver. Granted, in 2016, where he had the full season, I mean, he also had one in 2015, but the DMAC tire wasn't really that good on tarmac, so he was lagging on that surface.
Yeah.
And here he was going to be second on pace in Monte. In Corsica he went off again, and in Germany he won. So another trait he developed this season was being consistently good on tarmac. Someone who was not the best in this rally was Neuville, because he broke his suspension on Panzerplatte.
Yeah.
But before that, he wasn't even that fast compared to Tanak and Ogier.
But he was leading the. Actually, they were tied with Ogier after Finland. Both had 160 points. And Tanak had 119, Latvala 114. So basically, it was still possible for either of them to win the title, Neuville or Ogier. They were tied going to Germany, but then Neuville takes the wheel off.
To this day, I still it's such an innocuous cut he took, and the wheel just rips off. And it wouldn't be a good rally for Hyundai either, because Sordo would crash in the vineyards on Friday.
Yeah.
Padden would be very slow on Friday, but he would be good on Saturday. But he had 2 punctures as well. But it's Padden. He's never good on tarmac, really.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was basically it, really.
Ogier was third and was now leading
the championship.
I think the championship by 17 points.
And then
we also have to mention that Hänninen had a decent rally. He was fourth.
Yeah, he also won 2 stages as well.
Yeah, and Latvala had another mechanical failure on Sunday, like transmission.
I remember he having no power and also having a small off on Friday as well. I don't remember his transmission. Whatever. And then before Catalonia, we teased you with where Mikkelsen would end up. It was announced that Mikkelsen would switch to Hyundai for the rest of the season and also 2018.
Yeah. And also interesting that they would now have 4 drivers, and it was like, what is this thing? They can only run 3 cars at a time. Why do they have 4 drivers? Well, now we know what kind of tactics they would play with this system, like rotating the drivers and going even crazy with that later on. But
when Adamo joined.
But Mikkelsen would do all the events, and Padden would sit out Spain, and Sodo would sit out Australia, and all the 4 would drive in Wales. And Neuville would obviously drive all of them.
I think there were 2 major stories from Catalonia. The first one.
I think we start with Mikkelsen, because he was leading after Friday gravel stages. Because Catalonia was a mixed surface event, Friday on gravel and then Saturday and Sunday on tarmac. And Mikkelsen was leading. It wasn't a big lead. He was just leading by 1 second to Ogier and 3 seconds to Meek. But still, he was leading, and that was like a statement from him that I'm still a good driver and I should be hired to a top team.
But then, when we switched to tarmac, he was considerably slower than.
And that's like something that happened like throughout the years of these cars.
Yeah, only Neuville and Sordo sometimes were able to drive that car on tarmac. The biggest thing, I mean, the one major example you can take is Loeb. If Loeb can't drive a car on tarmac, then something is wrong. But and then both Mikkelsen and Sordo would hit the same, would break the suspension on the same spot exactly on SS12 on Saturday, on the final stage of Sat.
Yep.
So,
And Neuville did basically the same on Sunday.
Yep, the same exact thing on Sunday, and he would effectively lose the championship on that rally.
Second 0 points in a row, while Ogier was scoring another podium, and now the gap between them was like 37 points.
And this win is really forgotten because Chris Meek won the rally after all the rumors that he'd be dropped, etc. He would actually edge out Ogier on tarmac with the C3. He would beat him out on the tarmac leg of the rally, which isn't what you really associate Meek with.
Yeah, and he won all the stages on Sunday except the power stage where he was second, so that's not pretty bad.
Yeah,
but
one of the weird ones.
It was a good car on tarmac.
Yeah,
that's
very
what we
good
can
on
say.
tarmac. Until 2019, I think. It dropped off. But
it kind of turned around after Esa-Pekka Lappi came to the team and made the car better on gravel, but at the same time it wasn't so good on tarmac. So something weird happened there. And also we have to mention that Juho Hänninen was again fourth, so now he had like third, fourth, and fourth results in succession. So he was getting finally the grip of driving, because we had to give it to give some slack because he had been off the WRC for many years, so he needed some time to like warm up.
2014 Finland, I think, was his last
one. And 2015.
2015, sorry.
Yes, private Fiesta, yeah. And only that one rally in 2015 and nothing in 2016, so. And also, Mats Ösberg, I think it was his best result of the season by being fifth.
He had a good running on gravel, and then would drop off when it came to tarmac, but it was still not horrible, I guess.
Yeah, and Stefan Lefebvre was sixth, and I think he didn't make any mistakes, so that's like success for him.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in this rally, if I'm honest. But yeah, he finished all the stages, and let me check. I think it was his best performance that season. Yes, it was. It wasn't his best finish because he finished fifth in Poland, but it was his best performance that season.
Yeah, and Teemu Suninen won WRC too.
And now we head to not the finale, but the championship decider, really.
Yeah.
In Wales, where it was. Basically, the power stage is what is remembered, because you had 3 M Sport cars passing, and after each one, something was won, basically.
Yeah, Tänak was sixth, and that secured them the manufacturer's title, which is like crazy considering that they are a private team with no factory support.
Yeah, and they didn't even win it on the finale. They won it one round before.
Yeah, and then Ogier came in third, and that secured him the driver's title. Although he was celebrating it, but if Evans had crashed out, Neville would have won and gotten a bigger points gap to Ogier, and would have still kept the chances open for Australia. So that was kind of like celebrating a bit too early, but still.
Yeah, like Japan last year, where they celebrate the title prematurely when. I don't remember. Whatever, yeah.
But yeah, then, of course, Elvin Evans winning his first rally was like also a big... And he was leading throughout the rally, and those DMAC tires were really working well there.
I think they had like a joker where they...
Yeah.
The DMACs were also good in 2016 in Wales with Tänak.
Yeah.
But I think they improved them even more for the conditions. And... Evans was 0.09 seconds per kilometer slower than the ideal pace. So it was, it is a faster rally, so gaps are smaller, but it's a very, 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 very good performance from Evans. I must say, Evans this season had more downs than ups. He had some outstanding performances, like in Wales and in Argentina.
And Finland.
And his Monte wasn't even that bad, but on some other events he was like slow, but quite slow. But yeah, what can you do really? You remember the highs, not the very lows.
Mm.
And apart from that, I don't think there's anything notable that happened in Wales that worth mentioning. Apart from Hänninen crashing and effectively ending his career.
On a super special, yeah, and that was the end of his WRC career, even though we didn't know it at the time. But and also Greg Breen went off, and I think Chris Meek was like once again doing a slow rally.
Yeah,
he was seventh.
But also Meek was quite slow in Wales the previous year.
Yeah.
He was 0.4 seconds per kilometer, so it's alright-ish, but it's a faster event, so.
And of course, there's something important that happened. It was the first ever time that Kalle Rovanperä drove in WRC.
Yeah, in a Ford Fiesta R5 in WRC too.
Yeah. It wasn't a good event. I remember Jonne Halttunen has later said that when they flew back to Finland, they talked about maybe we should like develop our pace note system, because Kalle was using basically the old system of Harri, which was basically based on the driving speed of the corner, not the tightness, and they changed it to something more modern, and Jonne was quite helpful in that, and that really improved Kalle as a driver.
And I think
and also you can go on.
Also, Rovanperä, he had done some ERC that season, and I think he got podiums in Liepāja.
Yeah, but I think it was it after Wales?
No, it was before Wales.
Before, yeah.
Before Wales. He would also win in Australia, but he was the only the only WRC2 entry.
Yeah, he went super rally there.
Yeah.
But also Jari Huttunen had the first start with the Hyundai WRC2, and it was also quite miserable. Things weren't working like they should.
Yeah, as with everything in Hyundai, especially in the Rally 2 program, really. Nothing is working as it should. But, yeah. And now we head to the finale in Australia, where
with title secured, so not so much point in.
The one thing that was very interesting was how good Mikkelsen was on Friday.
Yeah.
And he had a quite sizable lead, and then would go on the bank, hit the side of the bank, pick up 2 punctures, only 1 spare, and would retire.
Yeah.
And after that, Newell won, and that's
Toyota was with just 2 cars, so Hänninen wasn't driving. So they said that they had already decided that we will only take 2 cars to this long trip, and it was more important for Esa-Pekka to get the experience from that rally.
Yeah. And only one of them would finish, as Latvala would crash on the power stage.
Yeah, and that actually caused some sort of depression for Latvala for the next season. He was really bummed out by that mistake. I think he would have had a good result. Was he second or something?
Yeah, second. I think he was second. Yeah. Behind
Newell. Yeah. Actually, the penultimate stage was cancelled. I think there was some heavy rain that they couldn't use the stage.
Yeah, it was cancelled. I don't remember why. SS14 was also cancelled, I think, because of fans.
Yeah, and actually we didn't mention that in Poland there was first one of the stages was cancelled because of the spectators in dangerous places, and then on Saturday there was footage of a fire engine running into the live stage, almost hitting a rally car. And that was the end of Rally Poland for a while in WRC.
Yeah, and their return wasn't that good either.
Yeah.
It was rumored that, small parenthesis, it was rumored that Acropolis would take Poland's place.
Yeah.
But we were quite broke in terms of money, so Turkey took it instead.
Yeah. And actually, it's also a good point about the 2017 season that there's not really that many rough gravel events. Because we have Mexico, where the climate is difficult for engines, but it's not that rough. The roads are quite smooth. And then we have Portugal and Sardinia, which are so medium rough. Sardinia may be a bit rougher, depending on which states they are using. But after that, we had Rally Turkey, and then a few years later, Acropolis would return and Safari would return, and that would change the nature of the championship. Of more thing about Australia is like like a grand finale for the season of Citroën. All the drivers crashed.
Yeah, it's really Citroen season in a nutshell because it started miserable, became even more miserable, and
Yeah.
ended with more pain.
Yeah, and then the season was done, but we still had like all these rumors about next next season, and we already heard after Spain that Tanak would sign to Toyota, and that was actually also interesting that these rumors about him going to Toyota had been circulating since the summer, and Tanak even said in interviews that this is like not true. I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying at M Sport, and then then he went to Toyota. Of course, you cannot say anything before the contract is public, but you shouldn't either lie directly to the journalists like that. I think he had a blog in Delphi, which is the Estonian newspaper, and he wrote there that it's silly that people are making up these things about my future. But yeah, that was a big thing. Tanak going to Toyota, and the rest is history. And I think it was like the annual Christmas party at M Sport. Malcolm Wilson is giving like the speech and thanking everybody, and we had a great year. We won the titles, and thank you. See you next year. And oh, by the way, one more thing. We get set for another year.
Yeah, I remember that. And well, what else?
Well, there was not any other driver changes. Tanak came to Toyota, so Hänninen was moved to be the test driver, and basically M Sport would continue with just Ogier and Evans, and then Suninen would be the third driver for most of the season,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
not full season. Basically, it was like at the end of 2017, Timo Joukki, who is Suninen's manager, was saying that we're targeting at something like 6 or 7 WRC events, but eventually he only skipped 2.
Yeah.
He only skipped Monte Carlo and Corsica, which were driven by Brian Bouffier.
And with not really spectacular pace either.
Yeah,
Brian
it seemed
Bouffier.
like these 2 rallies in 2017, Suninen was like really trying to show what he can do, and then in 2018 he was like trying to learn to
Just drive and finish.
take kilometers and experience, and especially in the technical gravel rallies, he was like really struggling. And when they came to Finland, the car was already lagging behind in performance.
Yeah,
They
indeed.
couldn't match the other ones with the new aero anymore. But yeah, that's the story of 2018, and that's time for another podcast maybe. I think 2018 is almost as good as 2017, but there's something special about this 2017 with these new rules and new teams and everything being shuffled and nobody being able to guess what will happen. And we had so many new winners, so many different winners during the year, so many different people making stage wins and winning power stages and whatever, and people coming to the WRC top level and debuting in WRC2, and so special year.
So many things changed because drivers that it was like a change of the guard that happened, because we had Tanak and Juvel also challenging for a title, other drivers regressing like Meek, arguably Mikkelsen really, and also Latvala really regressing, taking a step back, and others showing more pace. And also, very exciting cars, new start of the season, new.
I would say, yeah, Evans was definitely one of those who took a step forward.
Yeah, but not
And
top
and
yet.
yeah, and of course Lappi.
Yeah, of course, Lappi as well, yeah. Before we go, I'd like to mention because when I run the numbers, I also I have 2 tables that show driver errors and mechanical issues for each driver, and then I also calculated how many kilometers each car lost, depending on how many they were supposed to run, like if you had 2 drivers on some rallies, etc. So in terms of driver errors, Mick's miserable campaign, he missed 844 kilometers, which is 75% on just driver errors, so crashes, spins, whatever. And then on mechanical issues, he also lost a bit, mostly in Corsica and Germany, because Germany, after his Super Rally, he retired with another engine failure. Whereas the most unlucky driver was Latvala with mechanical issues, because Mexico, Argentina, Poland, Finland, Germany, and Catalonia, he missed some time due to mechanical issues. And another driver who had many mechanical issues was actually Craig Breen, because he missed most of Argentina and Sardinia due to issues with the car, although in Sardinia he continued. He was just two-wheel drive for almost the whole day. And whereas another driver with many driver-induced problems was Lappi. Oh, no?
Yeah,
Lappi missed most of
I think we didn't mention that Lappi went off after winning in Finland. He went off
in Germany and Catalonia.
Yeah.
And also another driver was, as you could imagine if you listened carefully, Stéphane Lefebvre.
Yeah.
And also Ogier missed quite a few, mostly because he missed almost the entirety of Finland. That's the big one. Other than that, the cars, just briefly. So the most unreliable car was the Citroën C3. Out of the 8,942 kilometers, it missed 9.5% of the kilometers they were supposed to do due to mechanical failure. And then it was the Yaris with 8.1% of kilometers missed due to a failure. And then the two most competent, let's say, but consistent is the more accurate word, was the Fiesta with 3.2 and the i20 with 2.8%. So negligible difference, really.
Yeah.
But still, I think I haven't run the numbers for this year, but I think these are higher than what we'd see today, because for the Puma, the Yaris, and the i20, I think the highest one would probably be like 5%, I assume. I haven't run the numbers, but yeah. So that's all really. It's gonna be a long one, but yeah. Thank you. Do you have anything to add, Antti?
Thanks. It was really, really fun to be doing this podcast. I have been thinking about this for many years, that one day I want to be talking about this special season, and now it's been done, and hopefully you enjoyed listening to this.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first time I've ever heard a Finn talk this much about something, so yeah. Yeah.
So you haven't talked about rally routes with me?
No. I'm not that worthy yet. But yeah, I want to give a special shout out to all our Patreons, Hugo De Carmo, you as well, Antti, Seb, and Kelly Funnymaker. Thank you very much for listening to this special episode of the Powerslide Pod, and yeah, we'll catch you on the next one, whenever that might be. Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you, bye.